And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're going to be talking about what Coach Dan Quinn had to say about Bobby Wagner and his leadership and why the Washington Commanders went out and re-signed Bobby Wagner. We're also going to be talking about what defensive end Trey Hendrickson had to say about his current contract negotiations with the Cincinnati Bengals that might actually open up the possibility for the Washington Commanders maybe going out and trading for him. And so before we go ahead and jump into the content for today, I first wanted to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to hit Terry McLaurin for a lot of touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that like, hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily Washington Commanders content. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the first topic of the day, and that is Bobby Wagner and just his impact on the Washington Commanders. And so, look, the coaches' meetings are going on right now out in Florida. And this is what Dan Quinn had to say about Bobby Wagner and just why they felt comfortable re-signing him and why they're excited that he is coming back here. And so this is just paraphrasing what Dan Quinn had to say, but he was talking about with Bobby Wagner, you're not only getting a great player, but you're also getting a great teammate. And he talks about an example where it was a tough stretch last season with Washington Commander, had lost to the Steelers. They lost to the Eagles. They lost to the Cowboys. And he talks about how Bobby Wagner stood up in front of the team. And this is a guy that showed some leadership, and he's a very soft-spoken type of guy. But that just tells you just what type of a person and a player that he is. And also, too, I was reading about how Bobby Wagner is one of the first ones in the facility, and just showing that work ethic really, rubs off well to the rest of the team and the organization. And so just talking about the impact of Bobby Wagner, just him and Jaden Daniels being some of the first in the building for the Washington Commanders, which is huge. And so when you look at just what he did statistically last season, look, there is no doubt about it that, Bobby Wagner was a huge impact when you look at the numbers, in my opinion. 75 solo tackles there, assisted 57. He had a combined 132 tackles, which is terrific. He had 10 for a loss. He also had 2 quarterback sacks. He had 2 fumbles recovered, including that one that was huge in the playoff game against the Bucs there, forced for a fumble and 4 passes defended. And so, look, this guy was huge as a player, but there's so many things that he does that they don't show up in the stat sheet. And I said this really multiple times about him. He literally is our Jaden Daniels on the defensive side of the ball. I think that there were several times where he had to make some play calls where maybe, the defensive coordinator is just not able to get him down to him in enough time. And generally, Bobby Wagner puts the team in the right sets. And so, look, he does a terrific job there. He is the leader. I'm glad that we do bring him back. And I think that he's going to be huge for this defense, especially a defense that I think has gotten a lot more versatile. And I think it is going to get a lot more versatile via the draft and maybe via trade, which leads us to the next point here. And so, look, this is interesting here. And I think that, the Washington Commanders, Adam Peters, I think certainly he would be a guy to maybe jump on this. And so this is a Trey Hendrickson update here. And so you can go find this on Yahoo Sports. I think that this is a very good piece to take a look at, because if you go down within this article, you can see the actual interview that he does with the Pat McAfee show, which is on ESPN. And he's talking to him about, what is going on with the Cincinnati Bengals and talking about the negotiations and things like that. And, when he's talking about this poor negotiations or poor communications, I should say, he's saying that the communication just really hasn't been there, back and forth between, his camp and just the organization. And he talks about how he wants to be there with them, or if he's not going to be there, he wants to still have the Bengals benefit out of this. He also talks about, just being a leader for this team and just how, the upcoming OTAs are coming up and things like that, and talked about how he had a ton of respect, for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and them getting their deals done. But, the bottom line here is that, look, he's not out there trying to get the highest paid contract or anything like that. I mean, he's just clearly saying that he's trying to get taken care of. And it looks like the organization and him, just they haven't had a whole bunch of communication. And so, with that being said, look, I think if you're Adam Peters and you're serious still about getting this football team to another level, I think that you have to be picking up the phone and seeing what is going on over here. And so, look, I think the Cincinnati Bengals want to keep him. I think he wants to stay there, but I do think that this really does open the door for the possibilities of a trade. And I think that the Washington Commanders might have what it takes to get it done. And I think about it like this. Look, I don't know how many draft picks is going to take, but I feel like this. I think that Trey Hendrickson is better than what you're going to get at pick 29 this year. I really do believe that he would be better than what you're going to get at pick 29. I've said this, just a couple videos ago. I feel like that this NFL draft is one in which you can go out, you can get better as a football team, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on day one or day two of the NFL draft. And so I think that if you have a chance to get him, you go get him. And I think that you have really a chance to really probably get the negotiations into your favor because, look, he's already under contract and he's certainly going to need an extension. And so I think that that's something that if the Washington Commanders are going to go out and get him, I think that that has to be something in the discussions there. And maybe the asking price or, the multiple picks maybe that comes along with getting him, maybe that goes down. And what it looks like, look, I'm just saying I'm comfortable giving up a first. I may be comfortable giving up a second as well, as long as you're going to get him. I think that the Washington Commanders certainly have the money to extend him. And what I do love about this, again, that's why I would say go and check that article out and just listen to the video for yourself. He's talking about, look, he is not really necessarily seeking just being the highest paid player. And that is huge. And he also talks about leadership. That is something that, look, with the Washington Commanders, how many times do we talk about just what it is to be a Washington Commander, being competitive, being a high character, the standards and things like that? Like that sounds like a player to me that would fit in perfect with what the Washington Commanders want to do. And I'd have to think that, yes, this is a bit more of an all-in situation, but I think that you can get him and it doesn't necessarily cost you a lot of draft capital in the future, which is why I would say that I think maybe you eat the picks in this draft to get him, but you still have picks in the future. I think that that's something that you can explore, or maybe you can break it up to where you do give up a first rounder and then maybe you give up a future first rounder or second rounder in a future draft or something like that. But anyway, let me know in the comments here, do you think these recent comments here and just the negotiations that are going on with Trey Hendrickson really opens the door up now for a possible trade? Do you feel like the Washington Commanders should go out and get him? Also, too, what do you think about what Coach Dan Quinn had to say about Bobby Wagner? I think he was right on par with just how incredible Bobby Wagner is and how incredible he is going to be for us. And so anyway, make sure that you tackle that subscribe button like Bobby Wagner is going to tackle a lot of offensive players next season for me, and make sure that you go ahead and hit that like button. Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.